Hello everybody, welcome to Q&A with Ari Blue presented by SFBN. I'm your host here, Ari Bluestein. Thank you for joining me here on this Tuesday night, and we already have started to receive lots of questions coming in, and we want to make sure that we want you to interact with us. There's a lot of different ways that you can interact. You can go on Twitter, use the hashtag AskAriBlue. I'm on Twitter at @the_SFBN and at AriBlueDU. So I'll answer your questions that way. Also on Facebook Live right here, feel free to submit some questions. And we've already had a few questions submitted, so we'll get right to it. We had a question very early in the day from Brandon Wygan. How is Council Rock North doing in sports this year? Well, I'll start off in the fall. In the fall, wasn't that successful in terms of the football season for CR North. If you may remember, Brandon McElwain, the stud quarterback for Council Rock North, went on to South Carolina. He was a freshman down south this year, so it was a kind of a rebuilding year for Council Rock North in football. In soccer, the boys actually did pretty good. Got to the state tournament at a District 1, ended up losing in the quarterfinals, but still a pretty successful year for the boys soccer team. And in the winter right now, I'll tell you what, the girls basketball team is looking really good. I believe they're 9-1 in Suburban 1 national play, and they beat Neshaminy. They lost to Abington and North Penn, but they're a pretty good team, and I think that they are going to do well and potentially get into districts. I think right now they're 13th ranked in District 1. So they're going to have a good shot in 6A to potentially make a run. The boys team, not as good this year, but the Council Rock North girls team certainly going to make some noise this year. So thank you for that question on Twitter, Brandon. Okay, so we had another question from Twitter earlier in the day from Joey Garrett with hashtag NLI tomorrow, which is National Letter of Intent Day. What local athlete do you think will have the best collegiate career? And of course, this is NLI for football. This is the regular signing day for football, and there's quite a few athletes that I can really think about. The first of which is DeAndre Swift. We've talked about him here on Q&A with Ari Blue, and we've talked about him on our show, Varsity Voice, and I think that you take a look at what he is able to do on the football field. He's going to be a guy that you need to be reckoned with. He's going to Georgia, and he's really going to make some noise at the college level going to Georgia. Then Raheem Speedy Blackshear at Archbishop Wood. He actually changed his commitment from Temple to Michigan State. We did a story on that on our website, thesfbn.com. And he's going to Michigan State. It's an interesting change. Obviously, Matt Rule leaving Temple allowed Blackshear to go to Michigan State because of the coach leaving. And I think we'll see how he does in the Big Ten. I think DeAndre Swift has a bigger upside. I mean, he's going to the SEC. I mean, he is a solid recruit. And then I look at a guy from South Jersey that maybe not as many people know about in Philadelphia, at least, Jonathan Taylor. Went to Salem High School in South Jersey. He's a Wisconsin recruit, and he's a dominant rusher, one of the best in South Jersey. So Jonathan Taylor, I think, is a guy that you want to look out for. And also, I'm thinking about some juniors: Ishim Young at Imhotep, Devin Leary, the quarterback at Timber Creek. Both guys that I think can make some noise. They're juniors. They're going to be 2018 guys, but you look at the guys I just mentioned: Swift, Blackshear, and Jonathan Taylor, three running backs especially that I really think have bright futures at the college football level. So thank you very much, Joey, for submitting that question on Twitter. And again, you can join in the conversation. Submit a question on Twitter, hashtag AskAriBlue, and I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook as well. SFBN, we're obviously a lot more than Facebook Live here. We conduct a lot of high school broadcasts, and we have a really good one on Friday night coming up in the Interact League. Haverford School at Malvern Prep. This is a huge rivalry, especially in football. Maybe not as much in basketball, but huge rivalry in football. And anytime and you have an Interact League matchup, you know it's going to be competitive. So Haverford School right now, they're 5-2 in league play. Malvern Prep 4-3 in league play as of yesterday, at least. There's some games going on today and tonight, but this is going to be a very competitive game. And we covered Malvern Prep on SFBN a couple of weeks ago when they lost to Germantown Academy, but it was such a close game, and GA had to come back at Malvern Prep to win that game. So competitive. Malvern Prep is such a young team, and make sure you check it out on Friday night at 7 p.m. And, speaking of the Malvern Prep Haverford School game that will be on Friday night on SFBN about 7:15, we had a question from Joe B. How do you think the game will play out between Haverford and Malvern this Friday? It's tough for me to think about how exactly it will play out because Interact games are so unpredictable. Malvern Prep needs a win. If they want to move up in the standings, they need a win. As I mentioned, they're 4-3 in league play. Haverford School 5-2. They're tied for second place with GA. It's a huge game. If I had to pick a team, I would go with Malvern Prep. They are the home team. But, Karan Randolph for the Haverford School is so good. He might be maybe the second best player in the Interact next to Nick Alakakos from Episcopal Academy. And EA is actually in first place right now at 6-1. But Malvern Prep is home. I'll give the Friars the edge there, but it is going to be a very close game. And again, you can watch it on the SFBN.com. And we actually had another question on Twitter related to Malvern Prep from Jack E. Cap. Deuce Turner for Malvern Prep has been scoring at a very high rate. How does his skill compare with past players as a freshman? It's a great question. Deuce Turner certainly turning heads, no pun intended, with his play this year. He's put up some serious points. And the guy I think about is a guy who's a senior right now at Newman Goretti, Quade Green. Quade Green, I remember seeing him going into his freshman year at the Philly versus New York Classic at Ben Franklin High. We covered that game on SFBN several years ago. And Quade Green impressed me so much, so quick, so much confidence, so many different ways that he can score, and he has really grown as a player to be a complete player, and that's why he's a McDonald's All-American 2 years in a row and a Kentucky commit. The first guy that comes to mind when I think of Deuce Turner is Quade Green, and maybe that's not a fair comparison for Deuce right now, but he's got a similar skill set. He can drive, he can score. He's a starter as a freshman. I don't know if Quade was a starter as a freshman, but Quade Green was also on Newman Goretti, the best basketball program in the area, led by head coach Carl Aragale. But Deuce Turner certainly reminds me of a guy like Quade Green, and even Duron Russell on Imhotep as well, who's been a 4-year starter as well. So Jack ECAP, thank you very much for that question. And again, you can continue to submit questions right here on Facebook. We'll get to them. And also you can be on Twitter, #AskAriBlue, and we'll pick it up and we'll answer your questions right here on Q&A with Ari Blue here on Facebook Live. In addition to our broadcast, which we just talked about, the broadcast we have coming up on Friday night, we have a TV show, Varsity Voice, presented by SFBN. We're actually off this week, but we'll be back on Thursday, February 9th, and we're going to have a very special feature on that day. We're going to honor the great coach William Speedy Morris for St. Joseph's Prep. He is approaching his 1,000th win as a coach through multiple levels, going back to his days at Roman Catholic in the late 60s and the 70s, Penn Charter in the mid-80s, then at LaSalle University, and then now at St. Joe's Prep. Great guy, great coach. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be a really special piece. That'll be on Thursday, February 9th, 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the Comcast Network, and 11:30 p.m. on Comcast Sportsnet. And again, that will be back on air on Thursday, February 9th. We are off this week. And again, continue to submit your questions here. We're getting a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much to everybody who already submitted all their questions. Q&A with Ari Blue. It's been a lot of fun so far. And I want to thank everybody who has participated here on Q&A with Ari Blue on Facebook Live. And we're really starting to here at SFBN, really starting to kind of expand what we do. We started out just doing broadcasts, then we did our TV show, which we mentioned, Varsity Voice, but now if you go to our website, we have so much more content. We're really producing a lot of fresh content. We even had a writer on location today for a great story that'll be posted on our website later this week. TheSFBN.com is how you go to our website. That's how you can go to all of our broadcasts. You can look up some past episodes on Varsity Voice, and we have a lot of fresh articles as well. Okay, so it looks like we have a question on Facebook, and we'll get to it in just a moment. And I'll bring up. Okay, so we have a question here from Joey Lena. Will you have any special guests coming on the show? Good question. I mean, as usual, we're going to have our usual array of guests. Aaron Ace Carter of the Philadelphia Inquirer does a phenomenal job. Jen Wilgus from Game On does a phenomenal job covering Suburban One girls basketball right now and Suburban One football in the fall. But yeah, we mentioned the Speedy Morris feature coming up. We're going to be doing another feature coming up in February on a swimmer in the area who actually has a chance to be in the Olympics sometime soon. A high school swimmer who's got a chance to be in the Olympics sometime soon. So that'll be another feature. In terms of other guests, we'll definitely keep it in mind. We have all of our show planned for next week, but we'll definitely try and get maybe some coaches or some players, or we'll mix it up a little bit and make the show fun. So thank you for that question, and make sure you continue to tune in to Varsity Voice presented by SFBN on the Comcast Network. And again, you're watching Q&A with Ari Blue DU presented by SFBN. And, speaking of Varsity Voice, again, I alluded to it earlier when we were talking about the very special Speedy Morris feature, but Varsity Voice, presented by SFBN, the only high school sports show on TV in this area. It's on the Comcast Network every Thursday, 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. And again, we are off this week, but we'll be on for 4 Thursdays in a row, February into March, and we'll be wrapping up our 2016-2017 season at the end of March to kind of put a cap on basketball season and give you a little preview of what's going on in the spring as well. But again, every Thursday, 6 and 11 on TCN and 11:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. And again, it's the only high school sports show on television right now here in the Philadelphia area. So thank you again for watching here. Q&A with Ari Blue here on Facebook Live. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll be back here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. and make sure you continue to submit your questions, and we had quite a few on Twitter, and I'll be back, like I said, I'll be back again next week, and submit your questions. You can even submit them during the week. Just use the hashtag, and I'll get to them next week. So thank you again for watching Q&A with Ari Blue here on Facebook Live.